Hi friends, today I would like to discuss about a new condition. It's called neural tube defect, and the neural tube defect is a most common birth defect in India. And in 2015, the birth prevalence of neural tube defect in India was about 4.5 per thousand total birth. And let us move to the definition of the neural tube defect. The neural tube defects are birth defects of the brain, spine, or spinal cord when if there is any defect within the brain or within the spine or spinal cord at the time of the birth, it is called neural tube defect. The two most common neural tube defects which are most commonly found in the clinics are spina bifida and anencephaly. Whereas the spina bifida, it is this fetal spinal column doesn't closes completely, and it is called spina bifida. And anencephaly, it is a defect within the brain development. Then let us move to the etiology and risk factors of this spina bifida or the neural tube defect. Exact cause of the neural tube defect is unknown, but there are certain factors or etiology such as genetic factors, environmental factors, nutritional factors, mainly the deficiency of the folic acid, which is a major risk factor for the neural tube defect, and or the poor intake of the folic acid, or intake of any other anti-epileptic medications during pregnancy, or obese women are also at risk for bearing a child with neural tube defect. And also fetal alcohol syndrome, multiple pregnancy, or any maternal undernutrition or any other stressful life events are also coming under the risk factors of the neural tube defect. Then let us move to the pathophysiology. The pathophysiology, mainly the neural tube defect, it is an abnormality which results from a lack of closure of the neural tube defect. And these defects may occur cranially or caudally. And basically, at embryology, that what happens means neurulation happens. And do you know what is neurulation? That's neurulation. It's a process whereby the neural plate forms into a neural tube, and at about day 21 of the new embryology, the neurulation begins. And from day 18, what happens means the neural plate falls along the midline, and by the end of the third gestational week, the neural folds fuse to form a neural tube. And this fusion of the neural tube actually begins at midline, and the fusion of if the fusion of all the segments of the neural tube happens, then a normal child will be born. But if any unfused neural tube segment is seen, it can be cranially or caudally, and if it is cranially, the segment is not fused cranially, it may leads to anencephaly. And if the segment is not closed caudally, it may leads to spina bifida. Whereas anencephaly, as I have already said, it is a major absence of the portion of the brain, skull or scalp. And if a defect in the closure of the lumbosacral region, it is called spina bifida. Okay, that's all about the pathophysiology. Then let us move to the types. There are majorly two types. Major classification of neural tube defects can be based on the morphology, or it can be based on the point of interruption in the neural tube formation. And based on morphology, it is divided into two: open neural tube defects and closed neural tube defects. In open neural tube defect, the spinal defect will be exposed, that it can be seen by through our eyes. Or if it is a closed neural tube defect, the defect may not be exposed, it will be covered with a skin, it will not be exposed. And then depending on the point of interruption of the neural tube formation, it is again classified into majorly two defects, that are spinal cord defects, that I have already said about caudal defects and cranial defects. That itself this, that is there may be any spinal cord defects, or there may be any brain defects. And spinal cord defect, the major one we have to discuss is about the spina bifida. Spina bifida, it is occurs mainly due to the incomplete closure of the vertebra and neural tube during the fetal development. And it is of two types: spina bifida occulta and spina bifida cystica. Spina bifida occulta, it means the bones around the spinal cord may not be fused completely, but it is called spina bifida occulta. And if the spine and spinal cord is not fused properly, it is called spina bifida cystica. Spina bifida cystica is again divided into two types, and they are meningocele and meningomyelocele. In meningocele, the spinal cord is normal, but meninges may be damaged. It may be displaced out through an opening. And in meningomyelocele, what happens means the spinal cord and meninges is damaged and displaced through any opening. And that's all about the spinal defects. In spinal defect, we mainly discussed about the spina bifida, and it is again classified into two: spina bifida occulta and spina bifida cystica. Whereas spina bifida cystica has again got two classification, and they are meningocele and meningomyelocele. Then moving on to the brain defects. Brain defects, there are mainly two classification: anencephaly and encephalocele. In anencephaly, a major portion of the brain, skull or scalp may be absent during the embryonic development, and infant with disorders may not be survive longer than a few hours. Okay, then moving on to the anencephalocele. In anencephalocele, it is mainly characterized by a sac-like protrusion of the brain and the membranes. And some of the symptoms of it include neurological problems, hydrocephalus and microcephaly. That's all about the types. Then let us move to the clinical features of the neurological defect. In clinical features, the symptoms vary depending upon the type of the defect. There are certain clinical features such as loss of bowel or bladder control, or a partial or complete lack of sensation, or the child may born with a macrocephaly or microcephaly, or maybe having hydrocephalus, and there may be any or partial or complete paralysis of the legs, or a visual impairment. There may be any dimpling in the sacral area can be seen, or tuft of hair may be present, or stunted growth or mental retardation or cardiac abnormalities, or any other respiratory issues, or a progressive enlargement of the head. This all come under the clinical features. And also, if the child is having any meningocele, there may be any protrusion of the meninges filled with the CSF through a defect in the skull or spine. And if there is spina bifida occulta for the child, a tuft of hair may be present. And in spina bifida cystica, the sac may be filled with the spinal fluid or meninges. And also other neural tube defects are anencephaly, inanencephaly, encephalocele. This all come under other neural tube defects too. And basically these all are the clinical features which are mainly present under the neural tube defects. Then let us move to the diagnostic evaluation. As usual, history collection, physical examination, etc. can be done. And also some others include USG, that is ultrasound, and most probably when the pregnant woman taking the USG, frog-like appearance, or for example a frog-eye appearance may be present on USG report. It may indicate that child may be born with an encephalocele. So sufficient measures can be taken accordingly. Then other diagnostic methods are maternal serum alpha fetoproteins, or amniotic alpha fetoprotein, or amniotic acetylcholinesterase. These all are some of the diagnostic evaluations. Then let us move to the next topic, that is management. There are mainly, we are discussing about medical management, surgical management and nursing management. In medical management, the patient should be prone positioned. Okay, the child should be prone positioned in order to prevent the pressure on the defective area, and always keep the newborn warm, and cover the defect with a sterile, wet, saline dressing. And if it is a open neural tube defect, and also administer antibiotics to prevent infection. And this all come under the medical management. And let us move to the surgical management. In surgical management, according to the type of the defect, we can surgically manage, or for open spina bifida, neurosurgical repair can be done. And for closed spinal defect, there may not be any immediate immediate surgeries. And if a seal is present, it can be closed within 1 to 3 days of delivery. And if the child is born with hydrocephalus, ventricular peritoneal shunt can be done. Then let us move to the nursing management. In nursing management, we are mainly discussing about the assessment and the interventions. In assessment, we have to assess which type of the defect it is, and which all are the mainly visible spinal defects, and check for the neurological assessment, and also the bowel and bladder pattern of the child has to be assessed. Then let us move to the interventions. What are interventions we have to be done as a nurse? Yes, as a nurse, we have to measure the head circumference of the child, and evaluate the sac, and measure the lesions if any present. Then monitor for any increased ICP for the child, and always place the child in a prone position in order to prevent the pressure of the area, and also use aseptic techniques. It's one of the important nursing intervention we have to follow. That is, always use aseptic techniques to prevent infections, and also administer antibiotics, and monitor for any early signs of infection to prevent complications. And most importantly, we have to give a psychological support to the child, and to the child's family. And we have to prepare the family psychologically very well. Then let us move to, that's all about the management, and then let us move to the prevention. In prevention, the experts has recommended that all women of childbearing has to take at least 400 mcg of folic acid daily, and educate that mothers the intake regarding the intake of folic acid, especially during periconception period and at first trimester as well. Then a woman who had already have first pregnancy with neural tube defect should take daily 4 mg tablet of folic acid for at least 1 month before conception, and then throughout the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. Then next preventive method, it is counseling and screening. Of course, it is counseling and screening. Then we have to educate them about the increased consumption of foods with high level of folates, natural folates. Natural folates may be available in many different sources of food, such as cereals, dark green vegetables, citrus fruits, etc. And also we have to educate them that some of the drugs that antagonize folic acid, such as anticonvulsants such as carbamazepine, phenytoin, phenobarbital, etc., it may increase the risk of myelomeningocele. So that's also we have to be educated. And this is all about the prevention. So far we have discussed about the definition of the neural tube defects, and also etiology and risk factors, then pathophysiology, then types, and then clinical features, and then about the diagnostic evaluation, management, and prevention. So that's all about the neural tube defect. Hope all you understand. Thank you.